Hello and welcome back to the RevOps Show. We've got a two-parter starting today on the one thing we know and love the most here, CRM implementations, and specifically what you should be paying for it. This episode, Doug and Jess focus around the basics and foundations of what a CRM is, what kinds of implementations there are, and some mistakes that happen in the process. That'll lead us into our next conversation coming out next week around the cost of it all. So with that, let's get started.
Jess.
Doug.
You always sound surprised that I say Jess.
You said that like two or three episodes ago, and I don't think I do.
It's like
I think it's just
like
maybe I
pause.
just sound surprised all the time.
That might be it. You should come back and like listen to some of our episodes sometimes.
I should do that.
We are switching it up today, Jess.
We're doing a morning recording. This is gonna be interesting.
Now, Jess, have you had your coffee? Because you know that is a rule for us.
I just finished my coffee, so I have completed a cup of coffee. So we can now speak.
Do you need a refill? Do we need to pause the show so you can get a refill to get through the show?
No, I do 1 cup a day.
That's it, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 72 ounces, but it's 1 cup.
Exactly. I do 1 big gulp of coffee a day.
So I saw some news today. I think it's gonna get. I saw it, and I'm like, this is gonna make Jess excited.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait. What's the news?
Salt and Pepper are getting their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Because I'm a huge Salt and Pepper fan.
I mean, when I hear Salt and Pepper, I think Jess. That's what I think.
Obviously, I think that's what everybody thinks.
Got it. Yeah, you have to be impressed with that cue up, though. I mean, come on, I'm going way back to my radio days here.
You are.
That was pretty impressive, was it not? Come on, I got to pat myself on the back, right?
Yep.
So, you never answered my question from our Slack earlier this week.
Okay. So you're going to have to be more specific because you send me a number of Slacks.
I do. I've been known to.
I ignore some of them.
Some.
Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not on purpose.
So, the Disney China zero COVID lockdown, where they locked it down where people are in the park. So like zero lockdown in China is not stay at home, go home. It's like, okay, we found something, it's locked down. Wherever you are, that's where you are. So they're in the park. Mm-hmm. The word is that apparently Disney was going to keep the rides.
Oh, then that's
going.
like that's a dream. That's amazing.
And to be able to leave, you have to have a negative test. So is that heaven or is that hell for you?
That is heaven. And here's so I guarantee you they ran the rides. I guarantee you they ran the food booths and like went above and beyond, because I don't know if you saw what they did at Hurricane Ian in Disney World when they had to shut everything down. But like I would be all about that. Lock me in the gates. I'm down.
So are you familiar with the
By the way,
show?
I have my Haunted Mansion shirt on today. So see, on brand for that.
There you go. Did you ever watch the show on Fox, Prison Break?
No, I never watched it. No.
So the twist on it was that the break was you breaking into the prison.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so there's, again, a whole storyline on it. First 2 seasons were pretty good. Then it really just totally jumped the shark. Anyways, like I could see Jess is now planning her trip. Wait, we're canceling Houston. I'm heading to China. And I'm going to figure out a way to break into the zero, where everyone else is trying to break out of the zero
100%.
lockdown. You're now trying to figure out how to break into it.
100%. And don't give me a test because I don't want to get kicked out.
I get you. Please give me cover. Come on. Gotta stay. What happens when the food booth runs out of food though?
That's not going to happen at Disney. Disney is the happiest, most magical place on earth. Things like that don't happen there. I realize I'm not being. Yes, it just materializes. You just put some pixie dust there, and it materializes.
I know you're going, Doug. Come on, that's what Tinkerbell's for.
Exactly.
I'm with you. All right, Jess, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about CRM implementation and what you should pay for it.
CRM implementation, the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
Yeah. So, I think we've done, in the last 2 years, we've done I'm thinking easily more than 100 implementations, haven't we?
Yeah.
Do you remember when crazy. That, like, if I had ever told you that we were going to do 100 implementations in 2 years, like when you were first here, you might have gone back to the travel agency.
I don't think I would have gone back to the travel agency, but I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I don't think I would have believed you. I think that's what would have happened.
I don't know if I would have believed me. Remember the first 100-seat implementation we did?
Remember how terrified I was?
I know. If you remember, we were doing the on-site at like a 15 or 20-seat implementation when we got word that we were that was coming. How time
I remember.
Changes. Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen is there's a lot of confusion, and I don't even know if the word's confusion. Like, I don't even know that people are confused when they get to the idea of what they should expect to spend and what the cost of a CRM implementation should be. So I have a feeling, Jess, that this is going to be a multi-episode. Well, I know it's going to be multi-episodes because I am sure even if somehow we cover everything today, we're going to come back to this topic. But I have a feeling that we're going to kind of go through this, and it's going to take probably 2 or 3 episodes for us to go through it fully. Whether we do that consecutively or not, we'll figure that out. So, if we don't give a cliffhanger on this, then
I know
what's going to bring people back.
Exactly.
Right. I think last time I checked, we're still the most popular RevOps show on Spotify, at least.
We got to maintain that title. We got to maintain the title. Keep them coming back.
You know what? I am now king of RevOps.
Does that make me Czar of RevOps?
Michael Jackson was king of pop. Howard Stern was king of all media. And I now dub myself.
Oh Lord.
What title isn't self-proclaimed?
It's true.
Right. And see here's what I've learned. If you just repeat it often enough, you'll see it happen. It's like first they ignore it, then and by the way, Howard Stern did this after Michael Jackson was dubbed himself king of all pop. And first they ignored it, then it was Howard Stern who refers to himself as king of all media. Then it was Howard Stern, king of all media. So I am king of all RevOps.
So we are not, that has nothing to do with CRM implementation. So I'm going to bring us back.
Well, I would say CRM implementation has something to do with RevOps.
Not with you being king of all RevOps.
It is part of my kingdom.
I don't know why I thought this would be more focused if we recorded in the morning, but was wrong.
Jess, I'm on my second cup of coffee. That's what's going on here.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. So let's start with talking about the challenge that is CRM.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things when you look at it. The first challenge is, what is CRM?
We've covered that several times. Whatever you want it to be.
Well, Jess, with our growing audience,
I know.
We are not going to fall into the trap that Lost fell into. Right.
Okay.
The problem that Lost had was it got to the point where if you by season probably 3, certainly by season 4, if you hadn't been watching it, there was no point watching it because
clue what was going on.
You would never be able to figure it out. Right. So we've got to be able to, all our new listeners coming on, we've got to support and enable them. Yeah. So, one of my favorite things, it's probably been said 5 times this week by people that I'm talking to, well, we're not using a CRM. By the way, I'm not talking about small companies, I'm talking about
I know
100, 200, 300. One's a 500 person or sales organization, not 500 person organization. I think they're probably about 5,000 people. And the truth is they are using a CRM, right? Everybody is using a CRM because, someone said to me, we don't use a CRM, we use Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And so if that's what you say, like if that fits you, then it's not that you're not using a CRM, it's that Excel spreadsheets are your CRM.
Well, what I find entertaining about that is, and when I think about database, not CRM, but when I think about database in my head, it is just a bunch of spreadsheets that and on a relational database, it's just spreadsheets that reference one another. Like that's how database is in my head. I mean, that's basically what a database is.
Well, that's what a relational database is. A database is just a spreadsheet.
Right.
It is literally just a spreadsheet. Right. I mean, a database is literally just a series of columns and rows.
Right.
By the way, 95 to 99% of all SaaS is just automated spreadsheets.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, everything boils down to a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Or at least really close to that. If you're using your email, you're using Outlook, Gmail, et cetera, to keep track of things, then that's your CRM. And people might say this is distinction without difference, but there really is a difference, right? Because if I look at something as the standpoint of we are not using anything, that is different than, the truth is right now everyone is using a different CRM. Like the problem with a spreadsheet is everyone has their own spreadsheet or everyone has their version of the spreadsheet. So everyone has a different CRM. And so what's going to be involved is there. So, the first challenge is I don't think anyone today, when they say we need a CRM, means we need a customer relationship management database.
You don't think that's what they mean? Why do you say that?
No, I don't.
Why do you say that?
Are you being
what
sarcastic
do they mean?
to me?
No, I'm being serious. What do you think they mean?
Well, I mean, you can go back to an old sales axiom that says, last year millions of quarter-inch drill bits were sold, but nobody bought a drill bit. What they bought were holes. And what I say is they didn't even buy holes. Who wants a hole? Hey, everybody, I got a really cool quarter-inch drill bit here. You want me to drill some quarter-inch holes in your wall? I'm just going to drill them randomly, right? No, they want a bookshelf. But who wants a bookshelf? Hey, everybody, I got some. Let me put some bookshelves in. No, I want a place to put my books. But you know what? Right. The reality is they don't even want a place to put their books. They want to get the books off of the table.
Right.
That are piling up. But they don't even really want that. They want their wife to stop yelling. Oh, wait, is this too specific?
Yeah, very.
They want their wife to stop yelling at them that the books are piling up on the table and so we can't entertain and the house always looks like a mess.
Right.
And by the way, if anyone thinks I've carried this too far, all you have to do is watch, especially in their prime, Black & Decker commercials. They would show the product, they'd show the product being used, and in some variation at the end of every commercial, husband was walking out of the garage, wife walked out the front door, came in, embraced, hugged, etc. Black & Decker didn't sell drills or power tools. Black & Decker sold better relationships.
Right.
And it's why Black & Decker got a premium price for what a lot of people would tell you was was certainly not the top quality product. And so what they're looking for is, and as we have said on this show many times, technology is not a solution. What they're looking for is to solve a problem. Because by the way, here's the other thing. I've never found somebody who says everything is great, everything is working the way we want it to, we need a new CRM.
Right.
Right. And so there's an underlying change that's desired. Right. Now there might not be a problem in the sense that we have we're not meeting our sales targets. We're not growing. It might not be that. It might be that, hey, we've identified that keeping up with, challenging, managing again. So really when you're looking at what do you need to pay, how should you consider, how should you select a CRM? I don't even know if we've done an episode on that. We probably should do an episode on how to select your CRM.
Oh yeah.
But understanding what is the problem that you're solving and what is the behavioral change. because today there are some exceptions to this, because what I was about to say was, when you implement new technology, you are implementing change. Meaning people have to change. Now, there are some exceptions to that, because, I mean, in many ways, the promise of AI is the technology will do the work for you. You don't have to do anything differently. Now, that's why everyone's running to buy it. It doesn't always deliver on that promise.
Right.
But, but again, really understanding, if you change your CRM, you are changing, right? And so, one question comes, what is the change? Or, is this an evolution of an existing tool that you have? Is this, do you have a full implementation and you're now changing the underlying technology? You want to change the application and there could be 100 reasons that you want to change the application, right? The underlying product, but you're actually not looking to change the business processes, the flows, the actions, et cetera. I mean, right. Those things can happen. For purposes of this conversation, we're going to be talking about, the instance of you are looking to implement a new CRM, which is going to include, changes to underlying business processes.
All right. So that talks about what is CRM. What else should you consider when you're looking at the cost? So what other tools should you be looking at considering?
Well, so again, it's not necessarily what other tools should you be looking at. It's the question of, what are you really buying? Right? Which again goes back to what's the problem that you're trying to solve. So mm-hmm. Like I've seen hundreds of CRM requirement documents now, mm-hmm. right? And I've seen it from companies that have good situations and they're looking to iterate and improve. I've seen, all the way down to just absolute anarchy. And, and what they all have in common is the requirements were met 20 years ago, right? The requirements of CRM, again, it goes back to what is CRM.
Right.
We want a single place where all data can be housed, that talks to other systems, that mm-hmm. everyone can see. The right hand will know what the left hand's doing. All information can be logged. We can, da 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 da. Well, I mean, Act for DOS couldn't talk to other systems. And yes, if anybody's wondering, look that up. That was my first high-tech CRM, was Act for DOS. If you really want to have fun, look up Goldmine. Holy cow! You think shit's confusing today? You should see. Anyways, I'm having flashbacks right now. Even Salesforce at its core is more than just a CRM.
Right.
There's an underlying reporting component to it. There's automation elements to it. So, again, so like, are you looking to improve your sales productivity? Are you looking to decrease admin time? Are you looking to increase the percentage of time people are selling? Are you looking for better reporting? And are you looking to unify, orchestrate, synchronize your sales and marketing motions, being able to support a more omni-channel? Are you looking to go from a rep directed to more of a self-serve PLG type motion? I mean, any of those things are, CRM is going to be at the core of it. And if you think about the revenue acceleration framework, mm-hmm. you've got strategy, you've got a chasm, the bridge is RevOps to execution, right. and performance. And the two domains of RevOps are structure and approach, of which your tech stack and your CRM is core. So it has a major influence, but what is the strategy that you're trying to bring to life? What are you trying to execute? What are you trying to do? What you need to do is define those requirements, right? So we live by a prime directive here whenever we touch any technology, and that is the business process must drive the technology. The technology should never dictate the business process. Now, I will say that increasingly, and I think we have a little bit to do with it, and I actually think this show has a little bit to do with it. And by no means did I have some, I did not invent that.
Right.
I coined it. I coined the prime directive. But all I did was copy from the people that I saw that were doing it right, and I'm sure somebody said those things to me in some way. I'm hearing more and more people kind of voice those terms, but the difficulty is I'm finding that they're not accounting for the implication of that, because they say those words, but then the next question is, or once you get into motion, it becomes, bam, let's get into the tech. What do you need the tech to do? What is
right?
And here, let me show you what this can do, and let me show you what this can do. What you need to I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I was going to say the thing that I run into frequently on that point is we ask, can we, and we don't ask, should we? like how, what is the right way to set this up? We don't dig in. We just say, okay, we can do that. That's how it works. That's how the tech works. We're going to set it up.
Yeah. And I mean, Jess, did you know that the word decide and the word homicide both have the same Latin root?
I've
both mean
never heard that before in my life.
I mean, I get it. We want the tech to decide for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I don't think I've mentioned this on the show before, but we're getting to the point where it's close enough where I can actually talk about it. So I'm going through I'm going through the second stage of the right. So we've got a book coming out next year on the revenue acceleration framework. And I was talking about this, and it was actually kind of funny because, yesterday at our weekly all hands, I got to share the story of principle, and the principle was simpler is better. And I shared the Steve Jobs quote that, simple is harder than complex. And one of the things that I pointed out is that, I love technology. I can't even imagine what I would do. I was not built to work on a construction site, just for whatever that's worth. That was not what I was put on this earth for. But the downside of tech, and as I hate the term, the democratization of, but as we've gone to more and more no code, low code, easier for non-specialists to use, which I want to emphasize is a tremendously positive thing. There's also a very meaningful downside to it, and the downside to it is it actually makes it easier to keep it complicated.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It makes it easier not to think through the difficulties, and it is why, despite all of the technology, we're still playing the same game we were playing before with the same frustrations and the same problems. We just have to do everything faster. I mean, it is fascinating. I wish you remember that movie that, and I can't remember if it was a person who basically they took a picture on the same day of a boy every year. On the same day, and they just kind of stop motion that as it went. I mean, I kind of wish like I could do that on the sales world over the last 40 years, every quarter, just kind of stop motion. And I don't think that there would be very much change. I really don't. And so, it's so easy to let the tech decide, and business process is, why do we get into RevOps? If you remember why we got into RevOps, one of the observations we made was first touch. That problem had been transformed in so many ways with MarTech, et cetera, lead generation. I mean, again, I'm not saying that it was totally solved,
right?
But it was there, and it was clear. And, databases were larger than they've ever been. Last touch, it was a mess, but and still is a mess, but because it's handled by a salesperson, like it's manageable. But what's happened is, as the top of the funnel has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, we haven't fundamentally changed anything else, and the middle has gotten more and more and more and more complicated.
Yep.
And the middle has always really been messy, right? And so when we're trying to unlock the power of technology, the power of technology in the power of CRM is the middle, right? And so you have to make decisions. So it's almost not even can we, should we, it's like, forget the technology. It's what do we do?
Right.
Like, how does it work? Where does it go? Now let's begin to map the technology. And oh, by the way, whatever the answer is, it's going to be different in 6 months. It's going to adjust. You've got to build that flex, as the great philosopher Mike Tyson once said. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So what we have to stop doing is mapping the tech requirements or defining the tech requirements. What we need to do is define the outcomes and then define the adoption and utilization requirements. Because when you're talking about CRM and when you're talking about just about any technology, it's not about the tech. It's about the adoption and utilization. And oh, by the way, I know somebody who is a big believer in and is involved in a company that's working to bring this to say that, look, trying to get people to adopt CRM, it's never going to happen. We've tried it for 40 years. It hasn't worked. It's not going to work. The answer is just make it so they don't have to. So in essence, everything gets, and if you think, we do talk about this from an adoption. The best way to get adoption is they're using the CRM even when they don't know they're using the CRM. So we bring your email together. And now when you send an email, that data is going into your CRM.
Right.
I don't have to do anything. It goes into the CRM.
Right.
The problem with that is, while that will enable you to collect lots of data, it doesn't do what the underlying real purpose of CRM should be, which is to guide behavior. Yep. Right? That's what structure does.
Yep.
And so if everything is invisible to me, and I actually, so I was talking to one of our clients, market development reps, who's really a star. And he was saying, hey, what do I have to do so I can double the number of SQAs that I generate? And I said, you know what? You need to bring down your call volume and your email volume. How often is that the advice that we give? And I said, look, you're at the point now where you need to bring it in, you need to customize, we need to be, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that I'm seeing, there's all these AI tools that are coming out to craft emails, and what's happening is the reps are further and further away from what's getting created. It's invisible. And I'm not a believer that says reps need to write their emails, because I think writing an email is not necessarily the same skill set, but they need to be connected to the email, because let's put aside that the AI emails suck. They suck bad.
I get those emails, so they
Doug, I noticed that you are a fan of the Severna Park High School Falcons. Wow, your AI algorithm found the city, the high school that I'm in. I was, I rooted for them when my kids went there. I really don't, right? Doug, how about those Orioles? Because I'm in a Baltimore suburb, except they don't understand. I can't stand.
You're not an Orioles fan.
Right. If Peter Angelos ever sells the team, I might look at him again. But story for another. So again, outside of the fact that they're horrible, the problem is that the rep is completely disconnected,
right,
from the messaging. So it's just right. So if you're not adopting. And by the way, this is a takeaway thought of today. People don't adopt CRM. People do not adopt CRM. People do not adopt technology. They adopt business process. They adopt behaviors. The technology enables it. Right? Which is why when you get addicted to it, if you think about, we're addicted to our phones and things like that. It's not the technology. Yes, the technology is, there's things that it's doing that's causing us to, biochemically get, we are chemically dependent on our phones. Story for another day.
I watched that documentary. Terrifying.
But it's the behavior underneath it that drives it. And by the way, the way you break it is you work on adopting different behaviors. You create different structures, right? And so if you're not mapping the behavior, and this is, by the way, what I see too often, we go from system X to system Y, and I mean small s system, not big S system. but we don't change the underlying structures. We don't change the paths. And then we go, I don't understand why it's not changing. Right. And so so when you think about the investment and you think about the cost and you think about, the implications of that, you've got to think about it more than just, you've got to think about it beyond the lens of building out the tech requirements. And I kind of feel like this might be a transfer point to the next topic or the next part of this. So I do want to share one other big thought. And this is actually a quote from John Ruskin. For some reason, like in the 1800s and early 1900s, math people were very philosophical. Like philosophers were math people. So this was John Ruskin, who's actually a mathematician. By the way, Gödel's law, one of my favorite laws, he's a mathematician. Gödel's law is you cannot judge a system from within the system. So here's the quote that's relevant to what we're talking about today. It is unwise to pay too much, but it is worse to pay too little. When you pay too much, you may lose a little bit of money. You may lose some money. And that's bad. By the way, that's bad. That's not in the quote. When you pay too little, you may not get the thing that you bought.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think about, if you're going to go through the process of implementing a CRM, that is a strategic business decision. That is of, significant impact to the organization. You've got to look at it through the lens of what's the business initiative and what are the critical components of the business initiative being successful? What will cause the initiative to succeed or fail, not just the technology.
Well, and 1.2 on the paying too little and not getting what you paid for, that causes, as somebody who runs teams that where we do these implementations, it's frustration on both sides. It's not just frustration for the person who bought for the CFO. It's frustration for the implementer because you can't actually do what you need to do. So it's on both sides, on the team that's expected to deliver it and the team that's receiving it, because the team that's receiving it didn't get what they wanted. The team that's delivering it isn't able to do what they need to do.
So at the risk of saying something very self-serving, and could even be potentially perceived as being a little bit arrogant, I do want to point out that just because something is self-serving doesn't mean that it's not true. Mm-hmm. Harry Beckwith wrote a book called Selling the Invisible. And one of the points he was making, and it was about selling services. And it was written at the time that services had become this, it was at the crossover where high level complex sales had become more about selling services than the products themselves. And even when you were selling products, the underlying value proposition, your point of competitive difference, was more service oriented than it was product oriented. The thing about a product is you can look, feel, and touch it. Like if you get in a BMW and you get in a Ford Focus, you will not confuse the two.
Right.
If you take the cars out on a 20-mile drive, you will not confuse the two. Now, that does not make one better than the other.
Right.
Okay, it really does. But, better's in the eyes of the beholder. That's a very tangible. I mean, again, one person might like one or value one over the other, but no one's going to say, oh, yeah, no, they were pretty much the same. I mean, I know people that don't like BMWs because they drive too hard, right? I love BMWs because they drive hard. You feel everything. Yeah. They hug everything. Anyways, with a service, you can't do that. Services are intangible. And so one of the points that Beckwith makes in there is that the most tangible element of a service is price.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now, go back to Mercedes and Ford Focus, or I'm sorry, BMW and Ford Focus. Yeah, BMW and Ford Focus. there's a tangible element to it, but there's also very much an intangible element.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because, the symbol means a whole lot, right? And if we were exclusive, special, etc., but hey, we're 50% less than anybody else.
Right.
There's a great book called Trade-Off that also has that from a strategy standpoint. But when you're talking about this type of implementation, and when you're getting into what's actually going to lead to a successful implementation, which we probably will not get into in this episode, there's a level and ability of thinking. There's a value to it that, I mean, just, there's a place where, creativity and breakthroughs, you're not going to do well when it's being managed on a framework of efficiency. So you can't schedule it, right?
Right.
You can't predict it. You don't even know when you're going to need it.
Right.
Right. There's just an element, if you could define the elements of implementation in an orderly way, if you could even get it all the way into heuristic, let alone algorithm, growing a business and implementing would be a whole lot easier. Yep. And so one of the things that, and I've had this conversation with more than one organization, that if someone says they can do this at a price that is, there's a low price element that says if they could do this, doing it at that price would be foolish, because the demand for that ability is so large.
Right.
Like if I wanted to bring in well, heck, we just hired someone to come in, and we know there's a learning curve on our, in our solution design, our system design team.
Sure.
And if he had come in and said, look, hey, I'm looking for $40,000. Nothing against people making $40,000, but I wouldn't have considered them.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can have that talent. And so when you when you talk about that price point, you have two things that happen. One is, and I've learned that we have to be careful how low we go, because I have this theory that says, okay, well, if you don't want our system design, if you don't want our business process insights, well, yeah, we can just take that out and we'll just come in and we'll give you a directed, but like, can we not articulate business process? Can we not dig into that piece?
I don't think
it's
in our DNA. Like, that's really, it's not our MO. It's in our DNA. It's near impossible for us.
And we teach our team, look, you can't take what you hear first and just move forward.
Yeah.
Right. And so one thing that happens is, that stress happens and like, because there's actually a bigger gap sometimes. And I'll tell you, that's why you got to think about, what is it? Are you really hiring? It's not just, I'm hiring CRM implementation.
Yeah.
Because, if you want to go inexpensive, don't hire us. Right. I don't think you're going to get what you need going the inexpensive route, but at least the inexpensive route the company doing that is going to take you down the inexpensive path.
Right.
Right. And the inexpensive path is, and hopefully as we get through the full conversation, that will become clearer. But that's so there's an element beyond just, well, how much time is this going to take?
Yep.
Right. I don't understand why, that shouldn't take that much time. And by the way, the other thing too is our best ideas. Well, our best ideas, and the reason, one of the main reasons that people hire us, is because of the deep business acumen that we have, because of our ability to understand their business model, and a lot of that is driven by the exposure I've had and the experience I've had in a lot of different businesses. And so like in a whole bunch of ways, I already know what they want before they do, because I, and I don't mean that, I do not mean that at all in an arrogant way. I just, I've seen the motions, I've done deep into it, I've worked with hundreds, et cetera, et cetera. And so if we were to articulate in a time mode, like, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, it didn't take any time. I already knew that. So, right. And here's the question that I think is a really important question. What's the cost of not knowing?
Yeah.
And I'll say this actually, and I probably, this just occurred to me. And I do know from a behavioral science standpoint that one of the major biases is called the insider's view bias, right? When you're inside, and it goes back to Goodell's law, right? When you're inside the system, you can't assess your system. And this is why, the old phrase, every top performer has a coach, right? Mm-hmm. Every top performer has a coach, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, that coach is not as good as the top performer. And that coach may never have done what the top performer is doing.
Yep.
Right. What that coach brings is an outsider's viewpoint.
Yep.
Right. What that coach brings is a perspective. And what that coach also brings is a broader set of experiences that help to, what you see is all there is. What you know is all you see.
Yep.
Right. And so, broadening that, what is the cost of not knowing? And so when you take a look at the mistakes and how many times we've been brought in to fix a botched implementation, I don't think the implementation was botched because someone didn't have the skills to do it necessarily. I think it was just the cost of not knowing. And so the technology came up against the business process. And what happened is, because where the expertise came from is this, the technology gets implemented with precision.
Yep.
Right. And there's nothing worse than precise resistance. I just made that term up, right? You've got precision on the tech.
Yeah.
And it comes up against this. I mean, that's just going to create havoc and chaos. Right. And then all of a sudden, friction. So like there's a big element in that.
Yep. All right. I want to talk about the different types of implementation that there are. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say here is that again, when we say CRM implementation, I kind of touched on it earlier. I mean, there could be, are you implementing something simple? And by the way, if you have 3 salespeople, you have 5 salespeople or something like that, if you're doing, less than $1 million of gross profit is probably somewhere around there, and probably even more than that, then a lot of what we're talking about, you be aware of what we're talking about here, but a lot of what we're talking about probably doesn't matter that much, because I mean, if you're serious about growth, you're going to blow your shit up so many times between now and when you can actually, the juice for the squeeze on this comes. So there are simple updates. There's implementations that are simple. There are what I would refer to as updates. An update could be we're iterating our existing system, or a little bit more complex, you might be changing your underlying technology. You might be changing the underlying technology, but you have a highly specific process. You're looking to replicate what is there,
right,
for reason. And with maybe some, a few iterations because it's time for that. But the underlying business process is clearly defined, clearly documented, and the underlying business processes aren't changing. Then what we in the world of CRM say is the other type that is the rip and replace. So we've got something or we've got nothing, and we're implementing. Right. So we've got this system and it's not meeting our needs, and maybe if it's homegrown, maybe it's some third-rate tool, maybe it's a second-rate tool. Heck, maybe it's a top-tier tool. Maybe you're on Salesforce and it's just not working, and we're implementing a new so that's what I would refer to as a full implementation. and again, for purposes of this conversation, that would be what I'm talking about here as we talk about what should you be spending, what should a CRM implementation cost.
And then there's a third type, which is updating your current system.
Yeah, I thought I mentioned that.
No. So we're talking about that too. That what we're talking about could be an update to your current system.
So what I'm talking about here today is more full implementation. Right?
It is, okay.
If you're updating, because again, if you're updating your current system, then I'm operating on the basis that you've got a strong business process in place. You've got or here's something else. Or at this point, you made the decision that you're not, you don't see the need to have a strong business process in place. But again, I would say to you, to determine what you need. I doubt that you woke up this morning or 2 months ago and said, you know what? We should change our CRM. I think it would be fun to change our CRM. So again, to really determine the type of implementation, you've really, I mean, the best question, the first question that you should answer is, a year after implementation, how do we know that we made the right decision and this is successful? 3 years after implementation, how will we know that we made the right decision, that this is successful? Be very, very clear. What is success? How do you know what success is? What are the outcomes? And those are the requirements. Those are the requirements that you have to define.
Yep.
And the path to get there. Because by the way, to get to that path, it's going to involve, there's a 99.8% chance it's going to involve more than just changing your CRM.
So we talked a little bit about the platform decision, because you talked about needing to define what the problem is, and making sure
the platform decision is actually different
your
than that.
Decision. Okay.
So the platform decision is different than that.
Okay.
So here's the next mistake that I see happen commonly in implementing new CRM. And that is problem identification moves to, okay, let's select our CRM.
Okay.
Right. What you need to decide before you even get into much depth of deciding your CRM is what platform. What is the platform decision?
Okay, so what does that mean?
Right, I'm going there. I was going to go there.
Okay.
So before you want a smartphone, you need a new smartphone. Before you think about the phone, you decide on the platform. You don't say, Jess, and I know for some reason you've made a weird platform.
So I knew this was going to go into an Android versus Apple conversation.
Well, hold on. See, that's wrong. That's not where it's going.
Okay.
It's close, but not.
Okay.
It's an Android iOS conversation.
Okay. Well,
hold on. Wait, hold on a second. Because this is where, understand, if we're looking at the smartphone world, Apple wears two hats at the same time.
Okay.
They wear a product hat. They wear the product, the phone.
Right.
And they wear the platform.
Yep.
Okay. Because if you notice, it's not a Pixel Apple decision. Because that would be Google. Right?
Okay. Right.
You don't think, okay, do I want to buy a Samsung phone, an LG phone, or the decision that gets made first is, am I going to go Android or am I going to go iOS? Now, if you decide to go iOS, then it's an iPhone, right? There's no other,
right.
There is no other choice, right? But you make the decision, and when you make the decision Android or iOS, 100 to 1,000 other decisions are made. The overall experience, what's going to happen, flexibility, control, ease, whatever you want to talk about, however you want to define it. And again, by the way, I will say for the most part, if you use Android, if you use iOS, you will not confuse the two. Right? They are different experiences.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah.
They are different experiences, right? So you got, Android, iPhone, Ford Focus, BMW, right? You're never going to confuse the
Good
experience.
Lord.
So the platform decision brings 100 other decisions that come with it. Right. And what I would say is, in today's world, there's I'll say this, there really is, there's roughly 3 platforms from a decision standpoint, trying to go completely non-brand. There is a build on platform. There is a work in platform. There is a no platform.
Yep.
Now, what I would say is that the work in falls into the category of what I call a vertical tech stack. The build on can be vertical, but it will take a lot of work. It's typically more of a horizontal. It's more broad. And by the way, vertical to me is how many true databases, or how many active primary databases exist.
Yeah.
And then no platform is and the way it works now. So HubSpot is the work-in platform right now.
Yep.
Salesforce is emblematic of the build on, but there are other applications that, Zoho falls into that. Sugar falls into that. Now, actually, I won't editorialize. And then the no platform is we're going to do a bunch of point solutions. We're just buying individual applications, and they're, we might integrate and sync them, but they're all operating on that individual basis. Your build on decision means you're going to have multiple applications. You're going to have multiple databases. They are going to be tightly configured. They're going to be tightly integrated, which means it's going to be a very IT solution. Your point solution says we're going to have multiple applications.
Yep.
They're going to be loosely integrated. They're going to be loosely managed. It's still a heavy IT. It still does put more pressure on IT because of of different things. And then the work in is we're going to have as close to a single database as possible, and typically a single database. By the way, on the work on, our people are going to work in the application that is closest to them.
Yeah.
So the user interface and what's happening, people are all working in different applications. A work in, people are working from a single application. Now, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people try to take that work, that build on, and treat it like work in.
Yeah.
If you're 100 salespeople, if you're growing and you take Salesforce and you're like, okay, we've got Salesforce and we're just doing Salesforce. And by the way, I think Salesforce is a great company. I think the product is great for the right situation. But if you're using Salesforce and your team's just using Salesforce, then my question is, why are you using Salesforce? Because that's not what Salesforce is built for.
Right. Yep.
Right. And so those like that's a platform decision that, again, is going to drive a lot about your business process, a lot about how things get managed and how they move forward. Right. And what's going to be involved in maintaining it and keeping things going before you even get into the feature sets and other elements that are associated with implementation.
All right. So I want to stop there because that's a lot.
But yes, we've only gotten started.
I know. Well, we're gonna have a part 2, like you said, and it may be, and it may very well be back to back.
It will be back to back. We don't want to keep our audience.
We do not
in suspense too long.
We do not. I mean, I think my two biggest takeaways are, and this is the first one is just a theme of the podcast as a whole, which is you really need to define your business process, understand what the outcomes are, and let that drive the decision, not let the technology drive the decision. And then I think what you said, the quote about it's unwise to pay too much, but it's worse to pay too little. I mean, I don't think people are cognizant of it. We see it all the time. And I think that's spot on. And I'm excited to dig in more on the next episode.
So am I. I have nothing else to add, Jess.
What? That's a first.
Nothing else to add. I know.
All right.
All right. Well, until the next episode, we'll get into in the next episode we will get into understanding what's driving the costs, how to begin to think about the costs, and how to know, are you paying too much or are you paying too little?
Yep. Till next time.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the RevOps Show. Don't forget, we've got the next part of this conversation coming out next week, so stay tuned for that discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to go subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, and share the episode. If you have any questions you would like to ask Doug or Jess about CRM implementations or anything else RevOps related, email me at hannah@imaginellc.com or hit us up on Twitter @DemandCreator. Until next time, remember, you can't solve your upstream problems downstream.